Cornhole Champions. I'm Zachary Oren Smith. I'm here with Amy Rivers and Avery Staker. Central Iowa is dealing with a full-blown water crisis, and now officials are fighting a second battle against people claiming the water isn't fit to drink. As the lawn watering ban continues with nitrate levels in the Des Moines and Raccoon rivers sitting well above the EPA's 10 milligram per liter safety limit, rumors are starting to spread about whether or not this drinking water is safe. Amy, you've been paying attention to this Central Iowa Water Works debacle. Can you like kind of break it down and tell us what happened?
Yeah, so I mean, this waterworks has been having problems with nitrates for a long time, and we've known about it for several years. And famously, the waterworks also were trying to settle this with farmers a few years back, and got denied that by the courts. So now they're sort of trying to do what they can do, which is take the load of water down so that it's a lot easier for the plant to process through the nitrates, so that everybody's water can still be clean. So in order to do that, they've started with a lawn watering ban, and basically sort of ratcheted up, really do not water your lawn, we're serious, we're gonna come out and fine you. So people assumed the next step of that would be sort of announcing that maybe the drinking water wasn't going to be safe if they couldn't get the nitrate level down to where they needed it to be. And so people really started worrying about that. They got test strips, nitrate test strips to test their own water and see if it was safe. And we're worried when those test strips are showing elevated levels of nitrate, as you would worry about that, obviously.
Totally.
So right now they're still saying the water is safe to drink. The lawn watering ban remains in place.
Right. Tammy Madsen, director of the Central Iowa Water Works, said, "We don't anticipate that there's going to be any concern with our water not meeting safe drinking water standards because of the hard work that everyone is doing with the lawn watering ban." I thought this was super interesting because there was kind of in response to some of these home water tests, they were very clear that you can't test the validity of those tests. They really they were kind of doubting the material there. But it kind of speaks to some of the trust issues that we as Iowans are developing with some of our kind of most important resources, right? If you don't have a functioning drinking water facility in a town, you can't live there, right? And I'm just kind of curious about we've obviously the water cleaning is not political, right? But I think that there is a political element in here because we've been as a state pretty reluctant to regulate our largest ag producers,
Yep.
and their use of phosphorus and nitrogen in their fields, right? And because it's been compliant, because we have been reaching compliance by through voluntary means. I think there has been some concern about the extent to which we're doing enough to prevent our aquifers that we depend on for water from getting polluted.
And related to the test strip thing, I know that there was a story that went around about how the test strips aren't accurate, put out obviously by by the folks that are testing the water using a lot more scientifically accurate methods. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the test strips aren't accurate. I actually Googled this. I went to go look at some studies. There's one on the National Institute of Health from 2008 that talks about specifically those nitrate test strips, the dip and compare the pink ones, and basically saying they're still pretty useful. They should be used with caution, particularly as a screening tool, or if you don't have access to a laboratory, that's the next best thing. Right. So it's not that they're totally inaccurate, just maybe test a couple different ways if you can, or right. Just take it with a grain of salt. And every day is going to be different. The water out of your tap is going to be different every single day. So
totally.
Yeah.
And as far as I think it's good to trust the folks at the water processor that if it is their job to make sure we have clean drinking water. It's good to, if they're saying that this water is safe to drink. I think we have to take them at their word, right? But at the same time, I do think it's insane to not take seriously when the public is coming to you with saying that we're concerned about we're seeing all this about this lawn watering ban. How does that relate to the cleanliness of my water? Right?
Exactly, because you are saying that the nitrates are so high that in order to get them down to a safe drinking level, we have to curb our water usage. That's obviously going to put people on edge, And I think it's good that we should trust our water treatment plant people in what they're doing, but
Totally.
I'm also going to keep those test strips around.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think that's part of the process, right? When you look at these tests, right, there's a certain amount of false positive, right, that they're going to have. It's native to the product, right? A nitrogen test strip for water is a test in time, right? And so, like, the reality is, you do that a couple of times in order to better understand, trying to get better understanding of how how this looks. But I think when we begin going after individuals, right, who are again just like dealing with what is mounting distrust of our system, and we're not getting to like the root of the problem, right, which is that big ag is out of control in the state, right? Big ag runs our state politics. Look at you go no further than the ag gag bill that nearly passed last session, likely will pass in the following session. This is I think there's good reason that people are where they are and are finding some distrust in their systems.
Absolutely.
I did want to point out that 2024 was a record breaker for corn yields when we're talking about the application of nitrogen and phosphorus in the fields. One of the kind of brilliant kind of innovations that Iowa has seen has been the way that we have increased our crop yields and kind of the efficiency with which we're producing from land. Right, that's been the industrial ag sector, right, has been really good on that point. Unfortunately, low market demand and high input costs mean the farm economy is still soft. I was reading some outlooks from Iowa State University's Chad Hart, one of my favorite ag economists. I was reading this story about water treatment in context of his diagnosis that we're going to continue to see crop prices be non-profitable for operators. And where's the incentive? The incentive is go bigger, right? If we can't get the prices we need, then we need to go with the volume to better accommodate those needs, to minimize those losses. But that can only go on for so long, right? I mean, I think there's like a huge problem that our corn and soy farmers are facing as crop prices continue to be neutral or negatively profitable.
Yeah. So you either
I think the word for that is unprofitable. Excuse me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so you're either propping it up with things like the Farm Bill, which is notoriously volatile, right? Or you're pivoting, and pivoting is risky. So it puts farmers in a tough spot. There's
this like belief that a ethanol-based airplane fuel will be the kind of like saving grace of for these prices, right? That it'll create this huge amount of demand, right? And we'll have all this capacity for producing ethanol here in the state, and it's this kind of future, yet another bridge fuel that we can use until battery technology or electrification is where it needs to be for flight, and we'll see if that comes. I mean, supposedly there have been a lot of supposedly we're very close to having that aviation fuel, that ethanol-based aviation fuel, worked out.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it comes up a lot in the trade mags as this kind of like it's again, not to keep bringing it back to religion, but it's like very much the like second coming, right? It's this like thing that's off in the distance, it's imminent, it'll happen any day, but it still hasn't. It's still not here.
Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, you look at the carbon pipeline issue, and this is all part of it. That the ethanol folks are saying, we need the pipelines to save the industry because otherwise, the carbon capture goes away, and then we don't have the environmental savings on it, and yada yada. So it is all together. We're sort of all in this ethanol boat and hoping, against hope that it'll stick around. But the writing's kind of on the wall. Like, ethanol is a right now technology. It's not really a future technology. I mean, even if you do make it into a feasible jet fuel, like you said, electrification is probably coming down the pike. So I think we got to start talking about how to responsibly pivot and help people do that before the emergency happens.
Avery's like, I've got so many thoughts on ethanol. It's crazy.
I know so much about it. I do love that you have a favorite Iowa ag economist. I think that is an interesting little fact about yourself.
Chad Hart is a baller.
You know enough Iowa ag economists to have a ranking.
I'm telling you that Chad Hart is the coolest. He's so funny. he's not my favorite economist in Iowa. That's Peter Erasm. Peter Erasm will always be my favorite economist.
Right, of course, of course.
Yeah, Chad Hart rocks. He's a cool guy. Check out his economic outlooks for the ag sector. You'll have a blast. And
What a
with
fun
that,
beach read.
and with that, Avery, can we take a break?
Yes, please.